Welcome to the Texas Truck Channel. I'm Craig, and behind me we've got the 2022 Kia EV6 GT-Line in the beautiful steel matte gray. And we finally get our hands on it for a full week. We had it briefly previously, but now we get to do a deep dive with that, and we're looking forward to that. Love the exterior of this. The rear haunches got some hip lines, and we just got done watching the Top Gun movie like everyone else on the planet, and it looks very fighter jetty, especially with this steel matte gray. Love that. In fact, the whole theme of this thing is very futuristic. This is the all-new electric platform from Kia and Hyundai, and they've got the future EV thing going on from exterior to interior. Great with this. GT-Line, this is the rear-wheel drive only. You can get all-wheel drive. The rear-wheel drive still gets you the 77.4 kilowatt-hour battery and 310 miles of range, and it's been right on the money with that. So we'll get into the details of the powertrain in the shop portion in a minute, but before we do that, let's get into the interior and see what Brian thinks about this futuristic look.
Alex James Murphy called. He wants his car back. You don't get that joke? Google it. In the meantime, we're in the Kia EV6 GT-Line interior, and the future has arrived, let me tell you. First of all, ergonomics. Let's cover that. They don't work for me very well. This seat is pimped back so far that I can barely reach the steering wheel. But the seats are very comfortable, and once you surrender that you can't get the wheel close enough for someone of my height, you get over it and you go, wow, this is really comfortable and really quiet down the highway. That's the EV trick. It is also very clear when you drive this. This is a clean sheet design. This is not stapled together from some previous product. Interior design, you have illumination tricks everywhere. You've got stripes across the dash that are lit up. It goes up into the corner. You've got the Meridian stereo. You've got a flat bottom steering wheel that looks like a yoke off a plane of some sort. Center console stretches out, and you have a really, really cool control panel below the radio that toggles between audio and climate control functions. So it's not cluttered, it looks really cool, and it actually works really well. I didn't think it would be good, but after a few minutes of playing with it, it just fell into place. Nothing to complain about there. We do have paddles. If you're used to EVs, that is for your regenerative braking. You can make that more aggressive or less aggressive, and that's what that is for. And all importantly, something the Mach-E cannot give you is climate controlled seats, both heated and cooled. That's a huge, huge advantage, and we're happy with that. All that being said, this is a crossover. It has good storage front and rear, and the rear hatch is actually the right load height for almost everything, and it's plentiful. We like it. So let's hop to the shop and let's talk about some of the technical bits before we go cruise this thing down the road.
Welcome to the powertrain portion of the Kia EV6 GT-Line. This is the single motor rear-wheel drive, which is where the motor should be, because that's what makes it rear-wheel drive. That's where the motor's placed. The motor's in the back. There's really nothing under here. What is powering this bad boy is a battery pack that is about the equivalent of 39 of these, good for 697 volts. What that gets you is 225 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Good for a 0 to 60 run of, well, you'll see here in a minute, so stay tuned for that. This is also a pretty efficient EV. This gets combined 117 mpge. And now we could get into all the kilowatt hours per 100 miles, and there's different ways to write. Look, that's what we're gonna go with. That's what's on the sticker. That's what we're gonna stick with. Just sorry, that is what it is. To add to that, this battery weighs 1,000 pounds, making the total curb weight of this sucker 4,600 pounds. It does have a quick onboard charger. If you can get the actual charging station that actually has all the juice, you can charge this bad boy from 10 to 80 in 15, 18 minutes, somewhere around that range. That's pretty freaking quick. Speaking of the quick charging in this thing, we've partnered with LECTRON to charge all our EVs here on the channel. And this is a 40 amp level 2 charger by LECTRON. And this thing works, it's pretty seamless. It's just, you plug it in, you plug it into the car, hit the power button, it's on. This is charging this bad boy from our daily range from about 40% to 100% in about 4 hours, 5 hours at the most. No problems at all. So it's simple, easy to use, check them out. It also has a fairly fast onboard AC charger, so it's going to charge even an AC charge a little bit quicker than normal as well. With that, let's see what hustles this 4,600 pounds around underneath the suspension portion with Brian.
All right, boys and girls, it's time for the fun part. Bring in the rubber. This puppy runs on some Korean rubber. That is a 235/55/19 Kumo Krujin. It's definitely a highway tire. While we've got some dirt on it, that's not its strong point. They're very quiet and they handle quite well. We're really pleased with these tires, actually. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into what's important. Starting up front, you have a strut design with a lower L arm. It's a front-mounted sway bar and a rear steering-mounted rack. That's kind of all there is to talk about, except that This unit being a single motor has a massive hole where a drive shaft would normally go. It does have an aluminum knuckle in the front and the rear. In the middle, you have a 77.4 kilowatt battery, and it's driving an SK Innovations permanent magnet synchronous motor, or a PMRS or something like that. It's made by SK Innovations, and we've been happy with it here. When you have a dual motor, you get 2 of those. Now, out back is where it gets much more interesting. This actually looks a lot like the GV70, which we've had recently, and some other Hyundai Kia products, and that is not a jab. Those are great products. That's probably why this drives as well as it does. It does use mostly steel control arms, but it does have an aluminum knuckle as well as an aluminum main lower control arm. This also has a divorce spring and strut design. These are not magnetically adjustable or electronically adjustable shocks front or rear, but they get the job done. It rides shockingly well and seems to handle great over everything. Now, all that handled, let's get on the road and see if we can burn some rubber. I doubt we can, but we'll try. Do it. Time for the juice.
Hit it!
I tried to brake boost it. Didn't really do anything.
Nah, there's no torque.
There's the torque. 50 and 60.
Okay, not bad.
Not bad.
I mean,
kind
this
of uneventful, but
like we talked about in the shop, this is the single motor.
true. That's true. Single motor, it's not the dual. We have driven the dual before, and it definitely is quicker.
It is definitely quicker.
Definitely quicker. And that thing we measured, I think it was about 4.5 or so.
4 something. This is 0 to 60 in what?
6.7.
Yeah, not. I mean, that's
Which
not
is
bad.
fine. And honestly, this is the long range battery with the single motor. Kind of the one I think a lot of people would want.
For most people, it's
For most
fine.
people,
I mean,
yeah.
310 mile alleged range.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alleged range.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I've had a few people in this car, and they've all thought it's fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
I think because there's no drop off, just like
Right.
an EV, it's instant and it stays.
The
It's linear.
impression is like
Like
that kick in the gut. There's no downshift waiting to
It's
happen.
like a really good turbo.
right. Now let's get into how it drives.
Okay, yeah.
First thing I want to really commend is shock tuning.
Yes.
It's spot on. I mean, I didn't drive it in your neighborhood or any dirt road.
This thing is not uncomfortable.
It's not uncomfortable, but it doesn't wallow, and it's kind of like a little bit softer GTI is what it feels like to me.
Okay.
Like it's like it handles well. It doesn't lean, but it never beats you up.
And that's good. They needed to handle well because the rumors are this is killing the Stinger when they come out with the GT version.
Yeah, this is basically the Stinger replacement. So my hoping, all I will say for a GT version, this is the GT line.
Right.
I would hope it's a little bit more enthusiastic in the corners.
I'm sure it will be.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be.
This feels like a solid medium setting.
Yeah.
Happy with that.
Okay, now ride and drive. Some of the things we ran into in our day-to-day thing is the center console looks like you're in Star Trek, which is great.
Right.
But what keeps happening as we try to adjust volumes and radios and fan speeds? What keeps happening?
Yeah. Well, keep in mind you got this cool toggling control panel,
Which is
right?
awesome.
Which is cool. But when you go to hit that, you end up turning the seat heater on.
Yeah.
And if you have the seat cooler on, which we're in Texas in the summertime, it's on. You've now turned it off and made it hot, and
Yeah.
you don't realize it until you're sweating later.
Right.
So that's caught me out a few times. In terms of power delivery, and I'm going to compare this directly to the Mustang Mach-E.
Okay.
There's actually a torque gauge here in the dash that shows 0 to 100% when you're in sport mode.
In sport mode, yeah.
And when you hit it, now it's at 100.
Yeah.
So it tapers up. Whereas now there's not this gauge in the Mach-E, but it feels like it's everything at once.
Mhm.
This feels like it's feathering in power, probably to save itself for longevity. But I wish it was instant.
But to be fair, it lets you do something in an EV that you wouldn't expect any modern car, let alone EV, let you do. And what is that?
That is a rotation of the rear end. I wouldn't call it a drift car, but we have allegedly pulled off at least one donut out of it. And
Some say
it will rotate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which the dual motor will not let you do.
And
That's kinda
and look, Toyota's making an all-new EV platform,
Right.
and you can get it. And when you don't get the dual motor, it's front-wheel drive.
Front-wheel drive. So we
Oh.
should get rear-wheel drive. Those dynamics are real.
So good job, Kia.
Yeah.
That's why EVs should be.
The dynamics are actually impressive because it gets playful when you push it.
And so before we wrap this up and we go to our closing thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
as a EV off from the ground up platform, have they nailed it?
Yeah, I think this is just the beginning of something brilliant. I really do.
All right,
So, all that, let's take it back and wrap up our final thoughts and who this thing is for.
let's do it.
All right, Mr. Rock, time to wrap this thing up. We're gonna try something a little bit different on the closing here. I wanna do something called objectives versus subjectives. Hit us with the objectives.
Oh, I like this. So we're like a really good news organization where we really just give you the facts,
If
and then
only-
you ruin it with a bunch of subjectives. I like this.
Exactly.
So objectively, Brian, this is the GT line, which is good because it gets you A bigger battery, 77.4 kilowatt hour battery,
Right.
and 310 miles of range. That's awesome.
And that is the objective. Subjectively, it gives you some styling that I'm not crazy about personally, because styling is a subjective thing. And I'm just gonna draw the line in the sand. From people that I've polled, we've had this. If you're about 35 and under, let's call it 34, for sake of argument, and under, you are in love with this. It's a spaceship,
yeah.
It's from the future. If you're over 35, it's from RoboCop. It seems a little off place, but the Ioniq 5 exists, and it's the same platform.
Yeah.
And so if you're over 35, I think that's the way that you go.
And objectively, Brian, that platform is the all-new EMGP
Right.
platform that Kia and Hyundai are using.
Which we're very happy with. So take the subjectives out of the way. It's a great chassis, a great platform. I'm excited to see what happens out of it. And back to the range you just brought up. I never once saw 310 on the range, even 100%. And it's got 5,000 miles on it. But this is a little bit of a dark art because it depends on where you live in your region. We're still learning this as journalists and everyone else.
And objectively, car manufacturers are doing different things on estimating range.
Right.
Some of them are doing like real world, like driving habits and styles, like what did you,
like how
based
does
on your
the EPA
previous
approach it?
drive, this is what you should get on your next charge.
Right, so that range gauge is guessing how journalists have been driving this thing.
And some ranges and other manufacturers are based on, well, this is what it should get, regardless of how you've been driving it. So the 310 range number is EPA certified. So it's kind of like your miles per gallon number of 117. That's objectively what the EPA rated it at. Now, the computer may tell you different.
We never saw it. No, to be honest with you, I never ran it 310 miles to find out.
Well, that's why you're being subjective, and that's why objectively I'm right on this.
All right, enough of that crap. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you stopping by. If you like EV stuff, let us know. Drop in the comments. We'll try and work in whatever you have, your requests you have. We have more coming on the EV front, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Take care.